with you and a warm welcome to you from all of us here at Powerscourt with Kilbride. The rain has driven me in. The rain and the cold, I have to add, have driven me in from our lovely bench in the back garden today. But nonetheless, from the safety of the rectory and the warmth indeed as well, you are warmly welcome to join us this day as we draw together a little later than expected in the presence of God within this little square. Most recently, last weekend, I do apologise that there was no online service for last Sunday. Last weekend we had our Follow the Star festival, and my heart is still filled with joy as a result of this for two reasons I wanted to share with you today. The first was that it saw a church step outside its walls and into the community. It saw a story that is as old as the hills and very significant in the lives of Jesus' followers, retold in a different way. As we walked with the adults, Mary and Joseph, who were the cast of our actors within the Nativity, we walked with them and a donkey from St. Mary's Church. We met the wise men, three other adults dressed in absolute finery at the clock tower, who told us about their journey and why they were there. And we knocked on the doors of two inns on the way up the hill to meet the innkeepers, who were also dressed up and denied Mary and Joseph access. So they had no choice but to go up to the little stable in Powerscourt church grounds. And there the choirs walked us in through the main gates and down to the stable, and the children gathered round and we sang Away in a Manger. And of course, not forgetting Mary had her baby. So that was the first glorious thing. And the second was that for half an hour, two squad cars accompanied us, very respectfully and slowly, from St. Mary's Church down through the village. The traffic was stopped for the Holy Family. And I thought to myself, do you know what? If this only happens for half an hour once a year, my goodness, the world stood still for them. And that's all we can ask. We pause for a moment now in the presence of God to pray. Well, this is an unusual setting, isn't it, for a reflection this morning? But I couldn't resist because I was over in the church for 8:30 this morning for the second Sunday in Advent. And when everybody was gone, all 4 people who attend, it's very, very small little gathering, I closed the doors and I looked around the church and I thought, wouldn't this be nice for a change to actually record a reflection in the church? So I'm asking, as always, for the guidance of the Holy Spirit to come upon me now, that my words may be to the glory of the Christ and of some comfort to somebody who might be watching today. After the hustle and bustle of the Follow the Star, I found myself sitting quietly in my car on a rainy morning midweek, the week that's just gone, outside a nursing home. And my duty to the residents of the nursing home was to deliver a little Holy Communion service for Christmas time. So beside me, in my car, I had a bag with a speaker in it, I had Spotify on my phone, and 3 rather posh carols lined up. I think one of them might have been sung by the Oxford Cambridge Choir, and the other was accompanied by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. So we were very highbrow, down in the basement of a nursing home in the middle of the week. And when I arrived there, I found in front of me 7 people in a bit of a semicircle line. One of them was able to walk for herself, but the rest were wheelchair bound, as is the case. And these are people I know very well. And we just caught up and chatted about what had happened during the week. I noticed at the end of the line was Sam, at least he's Sam for the purposes of this video. An elderly man who I've now known for 5 years and who always is wheeled in his wheelchair to attend the services in the nursing home. And Sam has very rarely uttered a word. His eyes are always closed, even when he's awake, so it's almost impossible to tell when he is awake or when he is asleep. And he is silent all the time, except for when it comes to deliver some Holy Communion. The carer comes and taps him gently on the arm and says, "Sam, would you like to receive some Holy Communion?" And he dutifully opens his mouth. In the 5 years that I have known Sam, he has gone from being silent to maybe about 2 years ago, becoming very verbal. Living in a world of his own, Sam was inclined to blurt out something entirely random during the Holy Communion service, and I would smile on the inside of myself, if not on the outside, because these are God moments as well, the haphazard human moments within any Holy Communion service. But of late, Sam has fallen silent again. Silent and so distant from us that I find it hard to believe that he may be aware of what's going on at all. And so it was that I found myself during the week in the company of Sam and 6 others, on my own without a carer, in the basement of the nursing home. When the time came to distribute the Holy Communion, I put on a piece of soft music in the background and made my way around each soul, offering a tiny square of bread. When I got to Sam, I remembered how the nurse had gently touched him on the arm, and so I did the same. His eyes were closed and he was sitting upright within his chair. There was no indication that he was awake or coherent at all. And yet when I whispered to him, "Sam, would you like to receive some communion bread?" he opened his mouth as he always used to. I could feel the tears prickle the back of my eyes. I knew that music in itself could be emotive, that the service, being small and Christmassy, was also quite an emotional time, or could be. But it wasn't either of those things that inspired me to feel this rush of emotion. The same thing happened when I came with the wine. I was anxious because sometimes delivering wine to Sam is difficult, and I wanted to make sure, not qualified in care or nursing, that I delivered the wine safely to his lips if he wanted to take it. It was only a tiny thimbleful. And so when I asked him would he like some wine, again he quietly opened his mouth. He received the wine, the blood of Christ, with such gentleness and grace that I was once more overcome with emotion. What I in fact think happened was that my back was turned to the rest of the room, that my presence with Sam at the end of the line meant that we were cocooned in a moment in the corner of the room. And into that moment flooded the grace of the Christ, to the extent that it completely filled me as an observer of what fell from the divine upon this man. As Sam was wheeled off by his carer, eyes still closed and perfectly silent, I wondered initially to myself, had he any idea of what had just happened in that God moment between ourselves? And then I drew the conclusion that he was perhaps far more able to acknowledge the presence of the divine in that moment than I was with all the distractions and colour of my busy life. My prayer for all of us today is that we are party to those God moments, that's the Spirit moments in our lives. If you're suddenly overcome with emotion and you're not quite sure why, because something has filled you up that isn't tangible, that you can't see, that's the Spirit. If you are suddenly overcome by watching somebody's grace or watching somebody do something for somebody else or a beautiful view or holding somebody you love, that's the Spirit. God operates through our tangible and emotional selves as well. And it gives us great comfort and hope when we are privy to these beautiful little moments of the light that always and constantly comes into this world.